Accutron Watches present. From New York City, this is the Accutron Show, a time travel through American culture with your hosts, Bill McCuddy, Scott Alexander, and David Graver. Visit AccutronWatch.com and discover the brand that has made American history with an all-new proprietary next-generation electrostatic energy movement. Accutron. It's not a timepiece, it's a conversation piece.
Innovation is a very flexible thing, and not everyone see innovation the same way. For me, innovation is the evolution of tradition.
The voice you just heard at the top of the show was today's guest, Daniel Boulud. He's a legendary chef and one of America's leading culinary authorities. But first, me, Bill McCuddy, who only knows how to eat food, not how to prepare it, along with culture writer Scott Alexander and editor David Graver. We are talking innovation right here at the table with one of the greats on the Accutron Show, right after this.
This podcast is presented by Accutron Watches. Visit our website, accutronwatch.com, and discover our iconic Space View 2020 collection, recreating the stunning visual impact of the original open dial design combined with an all-new electrostatic energy movement. Time just changed again. The Accutron Space View 2020.
Join us in celebrating Accutron's birthday. On October 25th, the iconic Empire State Building will illuminate in Accutron's signature green hue. Don't miss out in seeing the view. Well, I gotta say, I'm hungry and I'm in awe, and I have absolutely no questions for this guest today because I don't know anything about great French cuisine, but Daniel Boulud does, and he joins us in a few moments.
I've been looking forward to this all week. Yeah, I have eaten at his restaurants, but more importantly, I love listening to him talk about food, and I assume we're going to get to do some of that. But his approach to cooking has really influenced what I do in the kitchen, just to focus on first principles and some simplicity.
Yeah, well, and I know you've been there.
Remarkably, my last meal before the lockdown across New York City was at his flagship, Daniel, and it was one of the best meals of my entire life. I cannot wait to tell him this. Eating at a Daniel Boulud restaurant is something special because it is a mix of tradition and innovation. He's a pioneering figure with restaurants all over the world.
How do you innovate food? I mean, a Béarnaise sauce is a Béarnaise sauce. A Hollandaise is a Hollandaise.
There's your hidebound French cuisine, but then DB Moderne, the bistro.
Right.
That place is great, and it's a lunch joint. You can go in there and get, a $20 burger, but it's got foie gras on it, and it's a foie gras burger. You could call that. It's definitely innovation, and it's delicious. If it wasn't delicious going down, you'd be like, okay, this is just showing off. But it's amazing.
It also sounds like it should come with a defibrillator, but we'll ask him about that. I know he's also working on a concept involving robotics in restaurants, so that's intriguing and obviously innovative. And I just want to know what the one thing everyone should be able to make is in the kitchen.
The robots don't get scared enough when you yell at them.
So you had a great meal at Danielle, and you had an amazing burger at the bistro.
Amazing.
And I've not yet been to either one, but I think the three of us are going to get to go to Le Pavilion, which is the new incarnation that's coming.
Yes, I'm very excited.
Yes. And it's sort of interesting that it ties into Accutron in this way. How, Bill? I'll tell you. There was a Le Pavilion, I guess, in the 1930s.
Yeah, 39, for the World's Fair, I think.
Here in New York. And then I think he will tell us that name sort of went away in the
after
1960s.
Ushering in fine dining in New York City.
And now he's bringing it back. And speaking of things that went away in the 60s and came back, we are obviously the Accutron Show. And we are taking the opportunity with the chef to launch the first of 4 very special podcasts. So these are like the bonus extras, the DVD, the special edition, because they're built around the 4 pillars of the Accutron brand. Do you know those?
Yes. Design.
Yes.
Design, indeed. History.
No looking at your notes. The other two?
Space and innovation.
Well, Right to the head of the class, boys. Yeah, the idea that he's an innovative chef is one of the reasons he's on today, along with telling us all about French cooking and making me feel like I don't know anything in the kitchen. But in the future, the relationship with space, the fact that the brand has been to up on the moon, everywhere, the history as we go back and look at the 60s and how it's relaunched now. And then, as you said, the design that's so iconic still today. So all of that happening in one, it seems almost like too much podcast, but it's going to happen when we set the table with the great Daniel Boulud right after this.
This podcast is presented by Accutron Watches. Visit our website, accutronwatch.com, and discover our Accutron DNA collection. Reimagined for a new generation, the Accutron DNA combines breakthrough technology, precise engineering, and modern aesthetics to achieve a new level of technical excellence. The Accutron DNA, the new face of time for those who blaze new trails.
Chef, welcome to the Accutron Show.
Merci.
What was for breakfast today? What'd you make?
Well, my wife always do breakfast at home. And actually, I had to jump in the south of France for the weekend. So I crashed in last night and I decided to drive to the country where my kid was, my wife. And so this morning I had a quick breakfast with them. Oatmeal, blueberry oatmeal with peach and a 5.5 minute egg, which is neither hard, neither soft too much, but soft enough that you have all the pleasure of peeling it and eat it by hand.
Are you hard to cook for?
No, I'm very easy as long as you season well, you roast well, or you. As long as the basic simple things are done right.
What is the most basic simple thing for someone to get right in the kitchen?
It don't matter if you do a pasta. It don't matter if you just do a salad, a dressing. It's all this balance of vinegar and oil and salt and pepper and some flavor. Like I'm French, so I like my mustard in my vinaigrette. Mm-hmm. But the one who does the best one is my grandmother. She's not there anymore, but she left definitely the recipe behind. And I still crush my garlic with salt and put some mustard and add some homemade red wine vinegar and some olive and some oil. So I use olive oil, but in the old days in the farm where I grew up, we had our own walnut oil or our own rapeseed oil, or we always had a cycle of oil we will do during the year. So,
is there a system then, or a code that if people just understood would make them better in the kitchen?
Yeah, it's if there is a code, of course there is a code. It's first you have to plan ahead. And it all starts with what you buy, and have the right proportion of that, and plan ahead, because some meals can be deadly simple, but they take 3 days to prepare. From if you're gonna need to cure something before, if you're gonna need to marinate something before. Like a coq au vin, it's a very simple, rustic, peasant bistro dish. But a coq au vin could take 3 days. You marinate the chicken with red wines, and so the process is almost like a 3-step process.
Remarkably, I made one.
Hours?
Wait, we have so many questions.
Remarkably, I made a coq au vin at the start of the pandemic. It was one of the first dishes I tried to make for myself. I marinated the chicken 3 days in advance.
Yeah, it was good.
It was a remarkable experience, but there are many things moving at the same time.
Right.
It's true, but sometimes you can save time and marinate the chicken half the time by reducing the wine first before you put it in a marinade. So you reduce the wine by half, then you marinate your chicken. And I think the concentration of tannin and wine is there, so you don't have to leave it so long.
French cuisine is often thought of as very traditional, but your portfolio of restaurants is predicated on innovation and moving things forward. How did you strike this balance of traditional and innovation?
Well, that's what motivates me, I think, is to always think of a new interpretation, a new rendition sometime of a dish. or looking at creating a new dish who has a foundation. And the foundation for me is French cuisine often. It's not always the case, but often. And but the season, the market has a lot to do with it. And so I'm not in the south of France here in New York, and there's a lot of things we can compare with the south of France, and there's a lot of things we should not try to compare. And
because they just won't let you outside of France change certain things. Correct?
Yeah, well, going to the farmers market in Nice or in Cannes, I think has different vibes that maybe going to the farmers market here or to get, the seasonality of things. Yeah, I think it's like California today. The California market, you cannot compare them with anywhere in the country. It's the best farmers market there is in America. I think they are in California. For us, they are the most amazing, but in a shorter season.
Right.
So you work in a lot of restaurants in Las Vegas. And when I think of that, what do you do when you're in the middle of the desert? I mean,
where's that market?
You're not
You
near
trust your suppliers.
right.
Yeah, no, you can bring the best to you. I mean, I'm in Singapore where, you wouldn't be able to grow tarragon there. And we get things from Australia, New Zealand, Europe, Asia, America. We got it from everywhere. And it comes very fresh. It's a very good system. I remember once a Japanese gentleman at a restaurant in the south, on the bay in the south of Tokyo, and he had a sushi restaurant, and he came to eat at Daniel, and he came with a very good customer of mine and a friend, Japanese, and he said, next time I come to New York, I want to cook for you. So I said, that's very nice, thank you. And so 2-3 years later, he came back. So he left his home at 3 o'clock in the morning. He drove to Tokyo, arrived at Tsukiji Market around 5 in Tokyo, filled up 3 huge boxes of seafood and fish, went to the airport, and at noon left Tokyo that day, the same day, arrived here in New York the same day at the same time. He arrived around noon in New York. He did all his mise en place, preparation. He came with his daughter. And at night, I invited 16 of the my good friend in New York, top chefs and other friends, 16 people. We had a U table in our private room and a big sort of stage table for him. And for 3 hours, he gave us a feast, which was not even 24 hours old, from the market to the plate.
Was that the best meal you've ever had?
It was the most memorable. Yeah, one of the many memorable ones. And I think, to me, it showed that that when there is a way to be able to
personalize it or bring it
to carry an ingredient and to bring it to you, it's
that's a mind-blowing story.
Yeah, it was so incredible, and I will have to look at the list of chefs who were there to remember who to ask about.
I'm sure they tell the story all the time.
But,
it's a funny distinction that happened there. David asked, what was that the best meal? You said it was the most memorable, and I'm wondering if you could say, like, is the memorability, that piece of it, the most important thing for you?
Or it's one ingredient.
It was definitely, but the best meal is very hard to judge that, and there's too many best meal in life. But are they? And many are memorable. I think to me, a memorable meal is a memorable moment with friends, and there is this communion who create a memorable meal. I mean, you can have an incredible dinner, technically perfectly executed and all that, but was it memorable in the sense that it was a real communion between yourself, your friends, the food, the character who made it, and the moment, and also the surprise, I think, of it, which we had no idea what to expect.
Right.
And it kept coming in a very delicious and sometimes organic way. And I didn't know the cooking of that chef either, so I had no preconceived idea of what he was going to do.
I mean, sometimes it feels like food is the platform on which you build community or friendship or communion, as you said, that
Very much.
the people are maybe more important than the dishes at some point.
Well, that's why we stay 6 hours at the table in France, because
Right.
We get that wrong here, don't we?
We eat for 3 and we talk for 6.
Why don't we do that more in this country?
And it's the same all over. Well, we do. Depends what it is. If you
No, you're trying to turn those tables at least twice, aren't you, in the evening?
No, absolutely. Those experiences in a restaurant sometimes is a little bit different. But I remember, I'm not too old, but I had to celebrate my 50th birthday. And I am the co-president of City Meal on Wheel. And every year I do a gala at Daniel to raise money for City Meals. And it's always the first week of March and the first Sunday of March. And I auction a dinner for 12 people with Robert Parker at the time. It was like... It was a while ago, more than 10 years ago. And with Robert Parker, bringing the wine of Robert Parker and also having Robert Parker in attendance. So, of course, the guest bought the dinner, boom, boom, boom. It went for $35,000. And actually, the guest who bought the dinner is a big wine collector, is a very good customer, a very good friend. And he said, Daniel, I want this dinner to be your birthday party, so you can invite 12 more friends. I'm going to invite my 12 friends because I pay for it. But you can invite 12 more friends, and you can cook your heart out. And I said, thank you. And he said, and the wine, we'll tell Bob Parker to bring 1 course of wine. The rest, I'm bringing the wine. And he brought wine from 1882 or 1882 to wine until the early 90s, but very small 90s. A lot of my birth year, 55, and then a lot of wine of 1921, 45. And they were mostly Magnum or double Magnum. So we were about 24, 25 people at the end. We drank about 80 bottles of wine. We stayed about 7 hours at the table.
Oh, wow.
So we did well, you know what I mean? But the wine was old, so it didn't hurt, with no headache at the end of the night.
Another memorable moment.
And what I ask is all the chefs and sous chefs and previous chefs who work for me in New York to prepare one dish, one majestic dish for 24 people. And everyone played a game, and we had a parade of amazing dish parade through the dining room over those 6-7 hours of lunch.
I have to, because you introduced it, I have to quickly say something about a very memorable meal that I had. In March of 2020, right before we went into lockdown, I attended Sunday supper at Daniel on a night where you raised $1 million for your charity.
Thank you.
And it was one of the most spectacular evenings of my life, but I was caught off guard by not only the spectacle and the theatricality of it, but the charity component. And you seem to dedicate your life to others in the work that you do.
Of course. I think restaurants are part of the community, but we don't always give a chance for everyone to be part of it. Some people cannot afford it. Some people cannot come because, City Meal on Wheel, to me, it's a charity who take care of the elderly in New York, and the elderly were the people before us who sometimes, I meet, when we go on meal delivery, we find the most interesting people. They were dancers, they were singers, they were in the medical field, nurses, or they were just delivery men. Some people work closely with restaurants. So I met some chef who was working in restaurants and all that.
You went on the deliveries.
Yeah, because I created something with City Meal called Chef Deliver. And we are about 100 chefs in New York who once a month, once a year, you prepare hundreds of meals and you go and deliver them. But because we have a lot of chefs, so every week, every month, there is this program going. And it's really... It's a wonderful thing, and so we encourage the chef to make meals and to go and deliver them.
That's a surprise when that door opens and it's you.
And we have, of course, and some of them kind of know who I am and wish they could come to the restaurant. But we did very well that night, and and the generosity of our customer, I think to me is, of course I am proud to support City Meal and I'm proud to help the community of New York, but it's all thanks to our customer who was so generous and so willing to help me help City Meal to continue to be strong in this program. And 5 days later, I had to basically furlough 750 people in New York right after. So it was right in the neck of close down in New York. And we, after that, shut down.
We're going to talk about what a difference the pandemic made. We are discussing philanthropy, we're talking about innovation, and we are seated at a very special table right now with Chef Daniel Boulud. We will have more of that conversation, including the beginning. He talked about the difference between cooking at home and cooking in a restaurant. So when was the first time he actually cooked in a restaurant? That will all be on the plate when we return in this edition of the Accutron Show.
This podcast is presented by Accutron Watches. Visit our website, accutronwatch.com, and discover our legacy collection, reviving some of the most memorable Accutron watches from the 60s and 70s. The legacy collection combines timeless design with the technical excellence of Swiss watchmaking, each limited to 600 individually numbered pieces. The Accutron Legacy Collection, inspired by the past, built for the future.
Our special guest today is Chef Daniel Boulud. He's telling us some of the inside secrets. There's a mother's salad dressing that I'm sure has 1 or 2 ingredients he didn't mention earlier in the show. But let's go back a little. I want to talk, we'll get to the pandemic and how that pivoted. We were talking about that a moment ago. But when you were a young boy growing up on the farm in France, when did you know you wanted to leave, and what was the first restaurant you cooked in?
I was 14 years old, and I didn't want to go to school, and I didn't want to stay at the farm. And I was kind of a little bit stubborn maybe with my the direction of my life. I didn't mind to continue to go to school, but I wanted to do something. And I never really liked the work as a farmer because it was hard work for my parents. And God bless, my parents are 93 today, both of them. They work very hard, but I think they work in a very healthy environment and with a lot of family around and support them and all that. But I had a chance to be in a village where there were a lady, a Contessa. Her name was Contessa di Volpi, and she was a very flamboyant lady. She was driving, we are talking like 1969. She was driving a Mustang convertible with a poodle next to her and smoking big cravens and cigarette and drinking 2 bottles of whiskey a day with her friends. And she had a racehorse at the racetrack, and she was going gambling to the casino, and she was going to eat to all the best restaurants in Lyon all the time. She knew every 2-star and 3-star and every chef. And when my parents say, we don't know what we're going to do with Daniel, he wants to be a chef, she said, well, let me find him the best restaurant for him.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
And I started an apprenticeship at 14. And so I was going to school and apprentice at the same time in a 2-star restaurant in Lyon. And I think this defined my career because I loved it from the minute I was there. It was hard work. And it was not, nobody was kind. But I was learning. I was fascinated by chefs like Paul Bocuse and the chef I worked for, and all this big collective of chefs in Lyon who at the time were very prominent. And so that was the start. And then I always asked my chef to help me get my next job. So I asked him to go to Georges Blanc, a new 3-star, then Roger Verger, a new 3-star, then Michel Guérard. So I did my Tour de France. And after 11 years of training, I wanted to be a chef.
Lyon is one of the most important food capitals in the world. Would you ever have a restaurant there?
I have a tiny investment in a small bistro of a young chef who used to work for me and went back there. So it's called Le Suprême in Lyon. But no, I don't want to have a restaurant there. But I do have a lot of friends who have restaurants, and I stay close in touch with them. And I always go and visit them religiously because to me, it's part of my, it's my path, it's my life to go to Lyon and dine and see my friend.
When you look at your portfolio of restaurants around the world, was that ever part of the dream to have a global presence, to be relevant in so many different places?
Maybe because the chef I was working for already, such as influential chef like Paul Bocuse or Roger Verger or Michel Guérard, they were already in New York, they were in Japan, they were in America, they opened in California. So without trying to consciously be like them, I definitely liked the way they were expanding their opportunity of bring their cuisine to other places. And when I went to Denmark, I lived for a year and a half in Denmark because I was sent by my chef, Roger Verger, of the Moulin Mougin to Denmark. And so right there, I understood the concept of doing consulting and creating menus for others and bringing a team to support it.
How do you maintain innovation on a global level in the culinary scene today?
Well, innovation is a very flexible thing, and not everyone see innovation the same way. For me, innovation is the evolution of tradition, and that's we put innovation on the evolution of tradition, because I think I want to make sure when we do a recipe that we have a foundation, and that foundation is traditional flavor, traditional technique, and maybe a code, sort of a beginning, having a coded recipe, and from that code we build over, and that can come just from the base of a sauce and the base of a protein and the sauce together, and what are we going to do around it? Or like today I was tasting 5 new dishes, and of course we were doing some dishes for lunch that we are soon going to be opening lunch at Le Pavilion. So those dishes was first to make sure that the dish is balanced to be a meal at lunch, something that is not too spicy, that it's pleasant, it's comfortable. So we wanted to do something with octopus. And so we had some black olive musto, which is, we dried the black olive, and then we create, we rehydrate after, but with also a little bit of olive oil, and we create this sort of dark oil. It's almost like a tar of black olive. And we have a little bit of that, and we have...
Only you could make a tar sound good.
I know, exactly, because tar is ugly, but this is definitely delicious. And then, of course, with that, we had some very... we have a farmer who grow us only different peppers. He grow like 50 different kind of peppers and also tomatoes. And so... we have using those papers right now. We are preserving some. We are using some fresh. So that was one of the elements inside, and also some tomatoes, because right now until maybe late September, early October, we'll have beautiful local tomato, and then artichokes and some celery as well. So all these elements has a little bit of a Provençal maybe undertone, but in a very sort of fresh and local application.
Another innovation is the cell phone. Do you cringe, or are you pleased when someone pulls out and starts taking pictures of the plate that's just arrived in front of them?
It's okay. It's okay. We cannot. At the beginning, some chefs were so difficult and said, and they don't want to see any phones. There is a chef in New York who have a famous restaurant, and he basically banned phone. but at the end, you can never really control it all. And some people have a way to snap pictures without even him noticing. So it's okay. I think at the end, I love to take picture myself just to have the memory now, and also to be able to share it and to be able to express, how much I like it. If I don't like something and if I feel it's not good and ugly, I will not talk about it. I may have taken a picture of it, but I don't care. I'll delete it. But if it's delicious, I want to keep memory of it. And I want to also, in the past, you used to take pictures and have your vacation albums and things. So now it's more instant.
Speaking of phones and technology and innovation, these things, you worked on a concept with robot chefs. Is that correct?
Yes. Actually, Spice was born 5, 6 years ago.
It was SPYCE?
SPYCE.
Right.
It was in Boston by 4 young students at MIT. And a little bit earlier in that, Sweet Green was created by 4 young students from Georgetown University. So in the same sort of model, except Sweet Green was based on creating wonderful salad with some local farmers and all that. Spice was more about trying to robotize fast food or fast casual in a way that it could give better service to the guest as well, and better consistency and a better price. And those 4 kids were genius, and they created this most complex machine with the freshest ingredient and the most also complex dishes, where the machine could steam rice or steam pasta or seared certain vegetable or meat or put some crunch and fried of things and fresh. And so basically the last machine they created in Boston, which is in function, the containers start on one side and keep passing under serving things until it gets to the end, and it has the sauce and it has everything. And the dish were wonderful, healthy, really in tune with the new generation of people want food they can trust, and also they want to eat food from people they trust. And I think the 4 kids at Spice did an amazing job, and they just got bought out by Sweet Green last 2 weeks ago. So I'm still totally involved because I was consulting with them as a food consultant, but also as an investor as well. And I even convinced Thomas Keller, Gavin Kaysen, and Jérôme Bocuse to invest with me also in Spice. So now it's all converting itself to a Sweet Green stock. So it's good.
Does it worry you at all to automate those parts of food preparation, or is it you think that's
no?
Just
I think
inevitable?
it's not. I think no, not at all. I mean, in kitchen we strive with technology. We love technology. It brings, of course, innovation, but it brings consistency, it brings precision, it brings sometimes flavor that you may not be able to control it other. I mean, when, for example, the technology of sous vide came about, so there was science and technology together. And I think that's what we love in the kitchen is when
explain.
there's
That's
a bit
the
of
Boylan,
science and
that's
technology.
the Boylan bag that
Yeah.
you can put a piece of meat in at 130
Vegetable,
degrees for
fruits, so many things, fish, shellfish.
Do you use that technology, or does it take too long?
We use some of it for very specific purpose.
Are you looking to other food scenes outside of the major cities for innovation or for inspiration?
Of course, I'm always thinking, and that is not always on the fine dining. It's because I love casual cooking and I love the fast casual aspect of the business. I love the bistro aspect. I mean, I have an épicerie Boulud who is also it's kind of a retail of sandwich and salads and coffee and viennoiserie and pastry, and that I think interests me a lot. I guess, fine dining because you have a lot of support from many people around, and you build very large team in order to produce this excellence. It's a different business than trying to figure it out how to bring you the best croissant at the best price with the best quality of butter, best quality ingredient, and the least payroll because you want to make sure it has a balance. So you need to buy the right machine to do it. You need basically to bring the right support to your team in order to evolve and be productive.
Scott's right, though. We've spent a lot of time in the last 20 years building up celebrity chefs, and you're certainly one of them. And to take your face off of it and have a robot do it is kind of brave. I mean,
no, you won't take your face away from it.
Who said anything about taking my face away?
Well, I think if I had a problem with the food and I called the chef
just pat your robot on the back every day and say, thanks for producing those 1,000 meals without a sweat.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but I think technology will keep evolving. I mean, the evolution in our business is constant, and it's, there's a lot who don't work sometimes, and there's a lot who are very, very good because it definitely helped our industry evolve better. Now, we'll see the combination of spice and sweet green, where sweet green bought spice in order to bring technology in their store. So it's going to be a combination, but they believe that they could be more performant and certainly more efficient with support of technology. So it's
will
good.
that still be called spice, or
No,
will
it
Sweet
will be
Green
called Sweet
take
Green.
that technology?
Yeah,
I see.
exactly.
If we could get on a plane right now and go to only one city in the world, where would it be for the best food, in your opinion?
That's tough because today there is great chef all over the world. For me, I would like to escape what I know most. I would like to, so for me is to travel to South America, going to Peru, going to Brazil, to Mexico, Brazil. I love South America. I think going to Asian country that I've not explored, it has a sense of discovery for me. Of course, if it's for the best meal in the world, that's different, but that I already had it before. And on occasion, I do go back. And that's always Paris, and that's always Lyon.
Well, just give us an address then. I guess we'll settle for that.
I, as French as I am, I love other cuisine. And it's always a revelation to travel to a new country. And I mean, I have a lot of young Korean chefs who work for me, but we ask them to cook French or we ask them to cook Italian, and they were excellent. They learned cooking in America and all that. But then when I did my first trip to Korea, and they dress up a feast for me, I think it was just the most amazing moment where I was curious about the ingredient, about technique, about pickling, about aging things, but it was a cuisine I didn't know.
So you can be
at all,
baffled.
so- Yeah.
You can,
yeah.
you can eat something and go, wait a minute, I know 3 of the 4 things in this, but I haven't. You go into the
Absolutely.
kitchen and you start,
Absolutely. No, that's
and that's exciting.
and that's the beauty of sometimes being a chef and someone tried to host you.
But you've just opened a huge restaurant in Manhattan at a time when most restaurants are going out of business. So that was an incredible challenge after the pandemic. Tell us about the Pavilion and what it was about it, or what the idea of it was that drew you back into another place.
Le Pavilion came about 4 years ago, and so that was way pre-pandemic to us. And that was an opportunity to partner with one of the finest real estate company in New York, SL Green, who was developing this $3.5 billion building, which represent a building the size of the Empire State Building. And they had one restaurant in it, and they wanted a fine restaurant, but yet a restaurant who could be providing what maybe Midtown was looking for. So we didn't want to be an exclusive destination, but a fine destination. And I think Le Pavillon...
That destination, by the way, we should tell people who don't know, is right next to Grand Central Station.
Exactly. We're on 1 Vanderbilt, the name of the building as well. And we're on the 2nd floor, and right below there's an Épicerie Boulud in the corner of 42nd and Vanderbilt. And 4 years ago, I didn't know exactly what I could do, but I liked the people I was engaging myself with. And that was the first time in New York that we were creating a partnership with a developer like that. And as we worked on the development of the restaurant, first came the design. We needed to decide on the direction because the building itself has very strong architecture and beautiful architecture, but we needed to create a restaurant in a area of the building, which is the southeast corner of the building on 42nd, that has 75-foot window on one side, and a ceiling would drop down to 35 feet on the back. And 4 huge columns, almost like a cathedral column, inside the space. And we had 4 different designers, and each of them were fighting with the architecture. They were creating something on the inside that was trying to hide the issue. And one designer, which I had a lot of admiration for, and that's why I chose him, was Ise Weinfeld from Brazil. And he has an amazing way of connecting nature and architecture together. And he just gave us a little sketch instead of a 40-page book. He gave us a little sketch of the direction he wanted to take and how he envisioned the space to be. And so we gave 50% of the space to a garden. And we have a garden table as well. And all the restaurant is along the window. And we created a floating ceiling who has also a different dimension of high as it goes into the dining room. And we created a bar where the highest point of the ceiling is. We created an open bar, a square bar, which is beautiful, and a chandelier where at the beginning they put the light inside the blown glass, and they felt that was not the redirection. So now the light is coming from the side, and it's just glowing into the glass itself, and it's really beautiful. And of course, we needed to give a name to that, and I give a direction to the cuisine. So the name, I felt that this restaurant was a pavilion to the building. It was a place where we will entertain, we will celebrate, and in French, Le Pavillon is the name of a place who is either in a park, in a garden, or in a chateau, and it's the place where you just go to party. But in New York City, 1939, the World Fair, there was the French Pavilion, and after that, the staff stayed in New York City, and one of them opened Le Pavillon in New York. And that was the history of French dining in America for 30 years that never left, because the name resonated and sort of emulated with so many other French restaurants opening, trying to model themselves after Le Pavillon. Le Pavillon closed late 60s, early 70s. And it had the most, it really defined fine dining in America and in New York. And at the time, French were ruling. Now, even if you go to Nobu, it's fine dining because it's Japanese and all that. So it has many different cuisine today in fine dining, many different style. But to me, the name was synonymous with New York and synonymous with French cuisine and synonymous with sort of the balance of background I have and how much I know about the present and how much I know about the past. And so naming this restaurant Le Pavillon was kind of a natural. It was available. So we're very excited about that. And it has nothing to do with the one we used to exist, but it has a lot to do with, new millennium, new century New New York, revitalization of Midtown.
The innovated La Pavilion.
Yes, exactly. And we wanted to kind of created a timeless restaurant as well.
You've got a big picture, because I just have to point out before Scott asks this question that in that lineup you go, pandemic happened, we move on. And I have been by Danielle and seen the outdoor seating there, and it's the only one in the city where every little booth has its own air conditioning unit. So you pivoted magnificently during that, and I wonder what the big lessons are going forward out of the pandemic for restaurateurs.
I think it's to never lose hope and to certainly rally the team. We try to really take care of our staff as much as possible. We opened 3 restaurants during the pandemic. We opened one in Blantyre at Lenox, Massachusetts. We put a Café Boulud there. We opened a restaurant in Dubai. We opened a restaurant in the Bahamas, giving opportunity to our people everywhere. But in New York itself, Le Pavilion came just at the right time, because it gave us also a chance to not only focus on our restaurants, but also create something new in a time which was almost impossible to start something new. And but I think what I've learned is to never lose hope. We had some very challenging time, but we were finding every solution possible to it. And I was not the only one. Many chefs, from the to-go business to the home delivery to the Gold Belly nationwide. If you live in Texas or Oklahoma, I can send you a box of short ribs, and also, the art of raising money through Zoom and through any form of communication was fantastic. I created a charity for our staff called Hand in Hand, and we raised hundreds of thousands through generosity of our customer, our suppliers, our sponsor, our partners, but also through the fact that I could do some gig on Zoom and charge people for it, so we could raise money for our team.
So much of it seems like there's a flexibility that you seem to value, that this, when the pandemic hits, if you're flexible and you're willing to innovate.
I know, but I will say that this pandemic was certainly the hardest time I've ever went through, because I never had a minute of break, because you can't feel like, oh, well, it's the pandemic, everything is closed, let's hit the road and go to the beach. No. I stay tight in New York with my team, and we started with a small team of executive, and then we kept growing and bringing people and we never stopped trying to think about what we could do next in order to keep ourselves busy and alive, I would say, because it was important to keep our business alive.
I'm sorry.
In these traditional, traditional French cooking and restaurants, it seems that there's an impulse to, it must be the same. We have to keep the traditions. We have to keep all the stuff. And it seems like this is the opposite mindset.
Absolutely. And also, French cooking, the beauty of French cooking is then we have the whole spectrum of cooking. So it goes from the most simple, rustic, delicious country cooking to the most sophisticated avant-garde cuisine. And I think that, and everything in between. So when, sometime you hear, French cuisine passé, or French cuisine, has been, no, there's always a label rebouncing somewhere. Right. Either it's the bistro, either it's the gastro, right. In between, and we have the most creative chef as well. I think within one cuisine, I would say. And,
is there something in the French character that is so aligned with food? Because I think of other countries, and I can't think of any other.
No,
that is
but the thing is with food in France. It's not only cooks, it's not only chefs. You have the charcutier, you have the pâtissier, the boulanger, the tripier. There's so many trades who belong to the food world, and who you go to Paris, you may not want to see a chef, but you want to go to your charcutier, you want to go to your pâtissier, you want to go to your boulanger, and you want to go home and to your maraîcher, and all those people connected together. They're all connected around food, and I think that may be what makes the beauty of French food as French food.
Mm-hmm.
I think that speaks to everything that we could eat, want to be with, celebrate, and we have had the very distinct honor of hearing about all of that in one man who is a walking megalopolis. Is that a word? there's so many. How many total kitchens are under your name as we're sitting here right now?
It will be, I think, by the time we reopen everything, it will be again 12 or 14. But, from Singapore to Toronto, Montreal, we're looking at LA, Palm Beach, Miami, of course.
The world's chef is Daniel Boulud, and we have had him at this table for the Accutron Show. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, and look forward to cook for you.
Oh, we're coming.
Can't wait.
Thank you for listening to the Accutron Show. To listen to all of our shows, visit accutronwatch.com. To learn more about the world of Accutron, follow us on Instagram at AccutronWatch and subscribe to our podcast. From New York City, until next time, Accutron time.